Are you having fun there, James?
Yeah, found some more rust.
What are you doing? Uh-oh. So, me and James have come across a little bit more rust on his Lexus. There he is, look, he's smashing his way in. Alright, James!
Like a big hole.
Yeah, so, not only have we got 2 sills to weld up, we've got to now look at the back of the wheel arch. And can't really see there, let me get my torch. There we go. Oh, James, what have you done?
Yeah, just found this big hole.
You idiot. Why have you done this?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Needs more welding done.
Well, that actually looks quite simple and quite easy to do, to be honest.
Yeah.
Other than having the drain coming through with that big rubber bung.
Yeah.
It looks like it could just be one piece and a bit of patching up on the outside. Anything come through there? On this, through here?
That's all good,
seems,
I think.
Seems pretty sound.
Just the inside.
Yeah. Alright, well, I'm just finishing up a few little bits underneath here. I've got to grind back these spot welds. And somewhere I put down a piece of metal, which is going to be my jacking point for this vehicle. I have no idea where I've put it now. Here we go, look. So it's gone a bit rusty. It's been sat in my pile of bits for a while, but that should sit nicely over the 3 layers that I've done on the sill, and provides an obvious jacking point for anybody that wants to get underneath the motor. Right, so as you just saw, James was poking some holes in his motor. He created this, which then turned into this, and then I came along and turned it into this. Bit gutting really, because that now means we've got an awful lot of welding to do on the near side rear corner. I don't think the offside is much better, to be honest. On the plus, we've had the seats up, and other than the tiniest little freckle of rust just there, there's nothing to worry about or be concerned about inside the passenger compartment. However, going round to the boot, James, your ass is hanging out the boot, mate. Do you mind? And we've discovered a hole here, and this here needs some treatment. Seems sturdy. That's going, and that's going. There's a few little rust spots, so we're going to give all these a treatment. There's nothing around the suspension turrets, and I suspected the offside is just as bad as the near side. Obviously we've got all the front of the wheel arch there to deal with, same as what you've already seen me doing, and a couple of holes around here. I've not had a proper prod to see what's going on, but yeah, awful lot of work to do. Stay tuned. So I've started cutting out the near side rear corner and unsticking this inner lip in here, and just got down to the bottom of it here, and I think this gives you an idea as to what happens. This is full of water. I've cut all this out now, and we've found some good material to start welding onto, so I'm just about to get my pieces of paper and start making some templates for this. So I'll probably do this little bit here needs cutting out, and I'll put the support back in here, and then we'll start working off the support and boxing that off, putting this piece back on here, and sorting out the holes at the top. We've used some Bilt Hamber treatment on that up there. It's not done the greatest job, but Bilt Hamber in an email did say to me that if it's upside down it doesn't work that great. So a lot of people put their cars on a rolly-majig, whatever they're called, when they're doing restoration, so they can use the rust remover, and it is the correct way up. So I'm going to clean up what I can with an angle grinder, specifically around the edges, because that's where I'm going to be welding. I think once I've welded, I'm going to give it another Bilt Hamber treatment, just to clean off the last few bits of rust. It is still structurally solid up there. However, I did find some more rust up here. Now this is just above where the ABS sensor goes in, next to the fuel pipe in the near side rear wheel arch. We've got a hole there which comes out sort of by the back seats and the seat belts, so that's going to have to be dealt with. I cleaned up this area here, didn't find any rusty holes, but it did chip quite a bit of rust off, so I'm grateful there weren't any rusty holes there. Moving on to the boot floor. Oh, this is lovely and warm down here now. Hey guys, I bought myself a 3-phase 15 kilowatt workshop heater, and it is absolutely lovely laying down in front of this now. It's 2 degrees outside, so I found a few more little bits for rust up here. They've also had a Bilt Hamber treatment, so as you can see, some of this has come up with clean metal, but it's not perfect. This whole corner piece here is going to have to be cut out and a new one welded in, because it's already got a hole in it and it's not particularly sound. There was also a couple of holes in the side of the boot in the wheel well, so here's one, and there's one there as well. The underside of the wheel well's got quite a bit of corrosion on it, so I'm waiting on a descaling tool to turn up so I can just buzz all this off on an airline and chip it off basically. We'll see what's underneath. But so, I'm just about to start cutting up some pieces of paper now, and we'll start mocking up some bits and bobs to go in here. I'll probably do you a time-lapse video once we actually get going, because editing all of these videos really takes up quite a lot of my time in the evenings, and you know, I've got a missus and 3 kids who also need my time. So let's crack on. I'm gonna go and cut some templates and we'll come back in a bit. Right, so I got a bit carried away, being busy. I've got these 2 pieces tacked onto the lip of the arch, and I've got 5 or 6 pieces tacked in here. I've also started taking apart the very sides of the boot, and tack some pieces in here. This one doesn't look the neatest because there's a profile to the side there. However, this is supposed to have a great big heat shield over it. Nobody's ever going to see this one unless they start stripping the car down, and other than looking a bit different, it's still going to be structurally sound. I'm just about to cut this piece out now, and we'll get cracking with some welding. I think I might do you a time-lapse video. Alright, well, as you saw a moment ago, I've welded up underneath here. Not that you can see much because my hand's in the light. And I've gone round the back of the wheel arch now and seam welded all this. I've ground off some of the messy welds, but I've left the nice looking welds where they are. I've got my zinc primer now, and I'm just about to give this a quick blast of zinc primer, especially around the seams, because once that's dry, I'd like to go over with the seam sealant to make sure it's waterproof. And I'll get round to the front of the arch with the primer and the seam seal as well. I've got my zinc primer on now, and I'm just about to start cutting up the boot floor, the wheel well. There's some rust at the bottom there, and there's a rusty hole there. I think this is going to end up being quite a large piece to remove and weld back in. I'll try my best to keep it looking like what it should do, but for now I'm going to stick a camera down here, and you can have a time-lapse video of me working on this section. Okay, well you've just seen me weld all this up and apply some Bilt Hamber DeoxG, which is a gel rust remover. I've left it overnight, it's now tomorrow. I'm just about to peel all this off and give it a clean up. I'm hoping to see some clean metal underneath. Right, well I've been over the boot floor with a wire wheel and an angle grinder. That's come up quite nicely. I did come across a few more holes here at the front, so I've patched them in, patched it up, sorry. There's a small section down there to finish off on that bit. The boot side doesn't look too bad itself. I think we can rescue that with a little bit more Deox gel. The bottom of the boot floor, sorry, the side of it is in a bad shape, as per the near side there. So I think my plan of action is to start cutting this out. Like the near side, I'll have to start at the front of all this, which is a large hole there. It doesn't look like it goes up as far as it did on the near side, so fingers crossed this one might be a little bit quicker to complete, but very, very similar story. Might do your video actually. Let's say a time-lapse one. Alright, well, I've got a bit carried away on the off side of the vehicle. It's all welded up, basically. So I've gone over with primer, zinc primer everywhere, and taken the rear axle off, fuel tank out. Everything's all primed up now. There's seam seal along all the seams, nice and fresh, so there's no water getting in. I've got my lovely missus here today. She's just helping out and putting a bit of stone chip around the arches. As soon as the stone chip's on and dry, I'll get the rest of the car waxed up and start putting it all back together. Alright, well, we've been around the arches with a stone chip. I've started getting a bit of filler onto the sills. Drilled a hole there for cavity waxing. Need to take that bung out there for cavity waxing. Managed to wax underneath, so it's all looking lovely and shiny underneath here. Let's bring a bit more light in. Here you go. This is a Bilt Hamber S50 Dynax Extreme Wax. God knows what that means, but it's got a nice coating underneath. Not too thin, not too thick. We've done in the well of the spare wheel and the boot sides. All around this side's done and waxing underneath. So have a think about putting this fuel tank and a rear axle back on now. And we'll finish up the rest of the waxing tomorrow once the inside of the arches and the stone chip has dried properly. Okay, well, sorry for the lack of videos. I got a bit carried away with the work on this and just intent on getting it done, basically. As you can see, we're pretty much at the last stages now. I've just got the plastic arch liners to put back in a couple of places. This is all been cleaned up, so we removed the rear axle and the fuel tank. Found a little bit more rust hiding around those and on them, so the rear axle has been cleaned up, the fuel tank's been cleaned up, and we took the opportunity to wax those before they all went back in. Couldn't really get too carried away on a fuel tank because there's a shield that sits around it that's not in the best of shape there, so we'll leave that. That's a job for the customer for another day, and I think these arms here could do with replacing. This one's got the tiniest little hole there, well, in fact 2 small holes. Either way, we're giving them some wax just to prolong what's left, but it is an urgent thing for the customer to look at. Looking around underneath the car, you'll see everything's pretty black now. That's the Bilt Hamber S50 Dynax Extreme Wax, which went on with a HVLP spray gun and a waxing probe through the cavities. If I crawl down the car a little bit. So we've had all these little bungs out all the way underneath the car, and the waxing probe went through them, so there's various cavities in the floor pan which we've sprayed wax into. This should prolong the life of the vehicle. Same on both sides. There was a couple of grommets missing. In fact, there's a large one still missing here which I need to look for, but there were some smaller ones missing, but I've shoved my own ones in there. Whilst we were waxing, I took the opportunity to drill a hole in the inside of the wheel arch here and get some wax in to the sills, because I believe there would have been a hole there before I started chopping things up, or before somebody did a bit of a bodge on the previous rust that it had. Prop shaft needs changing. The bearings have gone quite dry, both ends, and I think the customer, like I say, could do with some new of these and some new lower wishbones on the rear. There were some sort of access holes here which had a stainless steel clippy thing that went over them. They got absolutely annihilated because of the rust, so I've just made something out of aluminium with 2 self-tappers and some sealant there, so that if anybody needs access into the cavities to wax it again, i.e. in 3 or 4 years time when it's due, then it should be relatively simple for them. Not too keen on the look of this. This wasn't me, turned up like it. I haven't touched that, just giving it a bit of wax just to slow the rust down a little bit. Moving on to the outside of the vehicle, we've got the bumper and everything back on, and I've spent some time cleaning up all the wheel arches in here after applying the seam seal and stone chip in there. It's not quite an exact finish. You can see there's a plate there that's been welded in, but you know, it's got stone chip on it, it's protected. This has also had a coat of just wax oil clear through this wheel arch, so with a little bit of luck it stays quite clean. I'm really impressed with my work on the sill itself. as you can see, we've got a really nice line going on there and lines going on up there. The paint's not the best match. Bear in mind I tried to blend here but wasn't too successful, but it's not had a wet sand yet and it's not had a polish yet, and if the customer's not too happy about this stone chip being up to his trim level, then he's welcome to peel it off and spend more time flattening it off, painting it, smoothing it, polishing it, yada yada. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. It's had over 100 hours put in, 9 square foot of steel. Countless pieces of steel have gone into it. I'm just really glad this is at an end now. It's cost the customer over £2 to have all this done. But I think, you know, 20 years time this could well be the only IS200 left on the road. So I'm just going to crack back on with getting these arch liners in and little bits of plastic underneath. Wheels back on and get this back on the floor, because I quickly need to change the two front upper wishbones, I think they're uppers, so it can be ready for its MOT, and I believe there's a sticky caliper on the front. Giving it a bit of a dusting off just to get some of the crud off it, but take it out soon and we'll give it a jet wash to get all the dust out, the cracks and everything. Thanks a lot for watching Bradshaw's Workshop. Please subscribe. I'm sure there's going to be more crazy jobs like this that nobody else dare take on. I'm really happy with this and I can't wait to give it back to the customer. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.